Hello, ahoy, and welcome to the very first episode of the Road to Drone Autonomy series, a three-part series in which we host leading drone solution providers from various regions to share their roller coaster ride to drone autonomy. Well, roller coaster or not, we'll find out soon. Joining me today, all the way from the United Kingdom, is a very special guest. He has been involved in aviation since his 14th birthday when he took his first flying lessons. He went on to obtain his PPL on his 17th birthday, as well as numerous other aviation licenses since then. He worked as a cabin crew for Viking Airlines on their fleet across Europe and the Middle East, and he was an airport representative for Thomas Cook Group and associated continental brands in numerous European destinations. Fast forward to 2020, he is now the founder of JetsetRC, a drone solution provider that specializes in assisting SMEs and large enterprise in integrating drones into their operations, and is authorized by world leading manufacturers such as the DJI and Autel. With a fleet of drones and CA approved operators, they have been assisting customers in solving complex business problems with drones and helping them obtain CAA drone pilot certification. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Carl Rafferty. Welcome, Carl. We are delighted to have you here. So, how are you doing today?
Very good. The British weather is absolutely the sun's shining today for a change, which makes a pretty marvelous change from the usual weather up in the north of the UK.
Great. So, thank you again. Let's get started. Carl, it seems like you've had an exciting journey from the crewed to the uncrewed aviation industry. Why don't you tell the audience about your aviation background and how you came to establish JetsetRC?
Yeah, so I've been involved in aviation since the age of 14. Took my first flying lesson on my 14th birthday. I went solo on my 16th birthday and then gained my PPL on my 17th. I've held various other aviation licenses since then, IMC, night ratings, etc., multi-engine experience on PA-31 Chieftains. And then I was working for a Swedish Airlines cabin crew before working overseas for a number of years for Thomas Cook Group. When the pandemic originally struck, right at the very start of it, unfortunately, the overseas work for us dried up because there wasn't any travel available. So I thought now's pretty much a good time to start JetsetRC. And that was the start of my move into the unmanned world. I've been dealing with large-scale model aircraft and drones from quite a young age, but only on the hobbyist side. So since 2020, I've been involved in that in the professional sphere. And we deal with pretty much everything from security, very technical payloads such as magnetometers, ground penetrating radar, hyperspectral, etc. So we're very passionate about automation and about going fully autonomous in the future. And that's what brought us here today to Flight Now and to our partners iDrone as well.
That seems like one heck of a journey, Carl. So why don't you shed some light on the kind of customers that JetsetRC serves? In which industries do they operate?
Yeah, so like I mentioned just then, we deal with a lot of inspection. We look for a lot of unexploded ordnance, so bombs, IEDs, etc. In the ground. We deal a lot with GPR, basically anything looking underground, looking underwater, inspecting sites across the country is where our realm of experience fits. And we love we love anything to do with asset inspection and security. That's where 90% of our business is, and where the bulk of our experience is in the team as well.
That does definitely seem like a lot. Any specific anecdotes from your previous customer deployments in the EU region that you would like to share? Were there any obstacles, regulatory or otherwise, that you had to kind of overcome?
Yeah, so in the UK, I'm sure this is for any viewers who's in the US or any other states as well. I'm sure we've all heard of the word that we don't like to hear, which is bvlos. So it throws up so many questions worldwide, no matter where you're from. I think we're all kind of dealing with similar framework in terms of that. So I think, first of all, the biggest barrier to entry is always bvlos. Now, in the UK, we are starting to be to come round to bvlos, and I think it's just about supplying our local aviation authorities with as much data as possible. So how I see it currently at the moment is we used to have manned flying in the past, and in the future we're going to go fully autonomous. But I currently see that we're somewhere in the middle, and I like to call that automation. So we've still got manned pilots behind the screen, etc. But we're going to be automating as many tasks as we physically can in order to make their life easier, and then build up a bank of data for the Civil Aviation Authority or whichever relevant aviation authority we are dealing with, supply them with the data and show them, look, this system works perfectly. This is what it does. This is the data that we can supply you with. And this is why we think we should be issued with A, B, and C.
Yes, BVLOS definitely seems to be like a distant dream for many, and which brings me to like the next question, which is one first step to BVLOS operations is autonomy, and the enabler to autonomy is drone in a box systems, as we have come to realize. So, what prompted you to use drone in a box technology? Was it BVLOS? How do I phrase this? Like, what's been the fire starter? If that makes any sense.
So the actual saving is with automation. The more tasks that you can take away from a human means the more time that they've got to get on with other tasks, or it can mean a reduction in staff, etc. So there's so many variables with it, but the my main thing for drone in a box is definitely the automation side of it, that I can automate as many tasks as I possibly can, which is going to make my life easier. And as the system improves, as the regulatory in each country improves, the whole system as a package is only going to improve with it, and therefore my life's only going to get easier with it as well. So I'm a huge fan of automation. I think it's where the future is leading us at the minute. And we have so many fantastic technology companies like Flightbase, like iDrone working with us, that we can provide these unique systems. And another thing that I like about Flight now as well is that it's got so much flexibility in the product within the software. So if there's something for a specific site that a customer may require, I know that I could come to Peter or come to yourselves and say, our customer requires this very, very specific piece of technology on their system. How can we integrate that for the customer?
And to be a little more specific, is there any particular challenges that you faced? Was BVL the only reason, or were there any other challenges that convinced you? Like, for example, sending pilots to a site for repetitive operations. Were there any such other challenges that convinced you to move to a drone in a box technology as a drone service provider?
Yeah, so asset inspections, they can actually be, there's so many variables with them that the actual inspection of the asset can be called off numerous times sometimes. So, or things have to be rearranged, etc. The beauty with having a drone in the box is that that system can be sat there. Whenever the team's ready to view that data, they can just send the drone up, get that data there and then, and view that data there and then live, rather than organising, we need to send a team of guys up there in the van. We need to, on this date at this time, we need to get this permission. And a big one for us is that we deal with a lot of construction companies. Now, security guys aren't allowed to go in there on a night because of the risk of falling in open holes, etc. So it's great for companies like that, because during the day they can have the UAV doing asset inspections, so keeping an eye on how the property's coming along, health and safety, making sure that's up to scratch, etc. And then when everyone leaves at 5:30, 6 p.m., we can switch that over to a security patrols. And we've got actually 2 multi-uses out of the one system then as well, which therefore reduces manning even further.
that is actually a very those were some very plausible use cases of using drone in a box, and definitely personal safety is one major such problem statement that I'm sure a lot of DSPs such as yours would be facing. So with a lot of low cost drone docking stations on the market, what drew you to iDeployers drone docking station?
So first of all, Peter's around about 90 minutes drive away from us. So we wanted to use a local supplier, and we've got such a fantastic relationship with Peter and Rob, that I held them in such high regard. That they're probably one of our best suppliers. They work with us very deeply on integration. And the one thing that I love about both about iDrone and Flight Now is the lengths that they'll go to make sure it's great for the customer. So some other companies, not that they're doing anything wrong, it's just that this is the system, there you go, we're not going to change anything about it, crack on with that. And that's fine if you are happy with that. But if you have something that's site specific or very specific to your operations that you need the software or the hardware adapting to, then you definitely need a supplier like iDrone and Flight Now in order to be able to do that.
Thanks again, Carl. But wait, who just walked in to say hello? So surprise! Welcome to the show, Peter. Peter
Thank
is the
you.
founder of iDeployer. He and his team specializes in building a modular and affordable drone docking and charging station for those who are not aware. So, Peter, would you like to share a few lines on the partnership and your experience working with Carl?
Yes, thank you very much. And yeah, I thought I'd pop in at the last minute just to say a few words, because what's really important for us as a business and as a drone automation business is that we have the right partners around the world that we can support and be in partnership with and work really closely together. And I listened to Carl's journey because I've heard the same story from him before, and we it aligns so much with our journey in terms of the time. We both started at lockdown and had this innovative idea of how we can now change from what our ordinary lives were pre-COVID to now where we are today. So in that short space of time, we've designed and built and created this docking station that we're selling worldwide. And then Carl's journey of wanting to take autonomy to the next level, it just seemed like a perfect partnership. And he's sort of been a real supporter of ours. He's got the product, he's making use of the product and deploying it to his clients. And that kind of partnership and that level of partnership is critical. So it's been a fantastic journey so far, and we've just sort of completed our next journey through the Nexus system. We've done some really great integrations with the FlightBest team coming over to the UK, helping us get that tight integration. Carl's got that system. He's got that, really critical updates to that system. And only yesterday we were, don't want to say them dreaded words, but we were flying bvlos. We completed 8 bvlos operations, went out to 1.5 kilometers, did a full asset survey, came back to the docking station 8 times, landed, charged, and did what it should have done. And we can't do things like that without partners like Carl in the UK.
Thank you again, Peter, for the kind words and for this, last minute attendance from you and participation. So, as Peter mentioned, we've been working very closely with Peter. We recently launched the iDeployer Nexus just the previous month. We can share the details of the iDeployer Nexus on the chat window. So please go look when you have time. And we are also working together to bring in a lot of new updates. So stay tuned onto the socials of both FlightBase and iDeployer. And Carl will definitely, show you demonstrations of the working drone in a box system if you are interested in it. So definitely hit us up on our social channels or on our emails, and we will be responding to you soon. Thank you again, Peter, for your time.
Very welcome. Nice to see you.
Cheers,
Yes.
Peter.
All right. So back to Carl. When I was speaking to you before this, you mentioned that you've had quite some experience with construction sites. And have you noticed any noticeable changes as a result of implementing autonomous drone solutions in construction sites, particularly?
Yeah, so we actually have a client, myself and Peter, who's based 600 kilometers away from the box in a European country. So that box has been running now pretty much constantly for 5.5 months without any issues at all. So that gives you an idea of the difference it's making. We've got a chap who's sat there 600 clicks away from his drone in a box, and he's operating it over his laptop. Browser login, no issues at all. No downloadable software or anything like that. He just literally opens Google Chrome, logs into his Flight Now account, and he can set his missions for the day. And away you go. So the difference that it does make is absolutely incredible. And we've already spoken to some insurance companies in the UK that are pretty confident we could reduce the insurance premiums for construction sites because of we can't minimize the risk in terms of people working on the construction site during the day, but we can definitely minimize that on an evening. And we can also have that drone up responding straight away to any incidents for like health and safety during the day as well. So there are some really, really big pluses to this. Like I said, so you can operate it from far away, wherever that may be in the world. You don't need any specialist software to do that. It's going to save you money on your insurance premiums potentially, and it's going to save you money on manning overall as well. And most of all, I think the most important part of all of this is the evidential data. So whether you are inspecting the asset itself, you're keeping an eye on your employees in terms of health and safety, or you're keeping an eye on the security of the site, it's all evidential data, and you've got that. That's what you need to protect yourself and protect the business as well.
That sounds great, Carl. Insurance is one such major use case for construction sites, and we've not really come across many DSPs talking about it. So that is definitely one great addition. So could you also elaborate on or highlight some of the benefits of using autonomous solutions for asset inspections specifically? Do you think is it mostly going to be used for emergency situations, or for routine operations, like constantly monitoring the asset to just check on is there if the work progress is on time, or if there's any faulty or any damages that are on these assets occurring on these assets? So do you think that's going to be a primary use case, or security would be a major use case?
Security is a major use case, but I think you've got to make the most out of the product that you are purchasing. So rather than thinking of let's buy a drone for security and let's buy a drone for asset inspection, let's find one package that's right for you that can do both. So for instance, you've got the DJI M2EA, etc. That can do both. You could be inspecting a solar farm with that during the day and then have that whizzing around doing security on a night. The same with if it was a construction site in the UK, we can have it flying around all day, making sure that our employees are safe. There's no health and safety incidents. There's no intruders on the site, etc. And then at night we'll just switch it over to security. So I think definitely you've got to look at the multi-use case of it. I always say start with the issues that you're trying to solve, write them down, and then see how many issues that one UAV alone can solve.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Which drones are more popular in Europe? What is like the customer's preferred option?
So for sure, DJI is obviously the big one. I mean, they are like the Apple of drones. Everyone loves a DJI drone. Everyone loves the layout of them as well. So for me, the perfect UAV for this box is actually the M2EA, the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. It's at an absolutely brilliant price point. 640 by 512 thermal, so it's useful for both asset inspection and security. Yeah, I absolutely love that aircraft to go in these boxes. I would, from the customer feedback, we'd also like to see something with the Autel 640T Enterprise, which seems to be a great alternative to the M2EA. And eventually, because we do love inspecting assets, we would like to see it on some larger drones like the M300, the M30T, etc. Something like the Aurelia Aerospace X8 would be perfect. If we could get one of those in a hardware box, we'd be very, very delighted.
Yes, definitely. M2EA is a very popular and affordable choice as well for a lot of customers. I know there's been a lot of movement and attention towards the M300. However, that a more affordable and pocket-friendly option would be the M2EA. So definitely, I think that's a popular choice. And Autel, as you mentioned, is also slowly picking up and coming with amazing updates. So definitely that makes sense. So one audience question that we've received is, how can businesses get started with DIB technology? How can they take your assistance? Also, do you only cater to the UK region or also other geographies as well?
Yeah, so we cater worldwide, and so we always say start with a regulatory. Understand your regulations before you do anything, and make sure that the product is a right fit for you. Equally to that, though, do not be put off by just googling bvlos and then coming up against a load of problems. Not everything that you see on Google is entirely correct. So definitely look into it further before you do make a decision on that. But what I'd first of all say is start with automation. Don't try to go autonomous straight away. See how many tasks currently is being done by a human, and then compare that to the drone, and then tick off each task that the drone can do. And then if you're at a good percentage that the drone can do, 80, 90, 95% of those tasks, then that drone in a box is probably value for money for the company. If it's lower end, then it's not. But that's a good checklist to see whether DIAB's a good fit for your operations. Just go through what currently are humans doing on this site, and how can I replace that with a UAV?
That's a very valid point, Carl. I think people end up Googling about bvlos and they are perpetually they're confused about what's the next step. So I think one particular action item that should be on everyone's list, or every enterprise that is, wanting to explore autonomous drone solution, is go and talk to your nearest DSP, and they will be the perfect guide for show you the journey or the path of adopting autonomous drone operations. And definitely what you also mentioned is take baby steps, start with some operations with a visual observer on scene, prepare a safety case, and then move forward gradually to complete or fully autonomous operations. That's definitely very insightful. I think one of the final questions is, Carl, what do you think about the future of the industry? What is your vision for the business? How do you see the market evolving?
So I do see us being fully autonomous within the next 5 years across the globe, whether that be the United States, the UK, Europe, India, Australia, everywhere. I do believe will be autonomous within 5 years. But I think we're currently at the stage now. Now, I like to compare drones at the minute to electric cars and autonomous cars, where we're currently in the middle of, we've got manned drivers on the road, and we're starting to see these unmanned vehicles come in. So I kind of feel at the minute that the drone industry is in a similar position to that, where we've still got manned pilots out flying, and then in a couple of years, 4 or 5 years time, we're probably all going to be autonomous. And that's why I keep banging on about automation as well, because we're probably just in the middle of that at the minute. We are moving more towards autonomous, but like I said, the best way to start is literally automate as many tasks as you possibly can, and then build up that operating safety case for your local aviation authority, and then provide them with that case. If you've had, you know, a successful 6-month period, for instance, of, you know, really successful flights, good data bank to show the CAA, you shouldn't really have any problems in getting that approval. The CAAs, the aviation authorities across the world are generally very, very helpful in with new technologies. It's just about providing them with the accurate data in order to make a decision on that operating safety case.
Yes, definitely. I agree to that as well, Carl. And I think we have quite a lot of insightful information from you. So thank you again for your participation and your time today. My last question before we end it is, do you have any advice for budding entrepreneurs? So we have a lot of drone solution providers joining us today. So do you have any advice for them? Anything that they can take away from this session as well?
Yeah, just get up and do it. So Peter mentioned this earlier, that we both started very, very similar times, right at the beginning of the pandemic. Funny enough, our store, we have a physical store, and we actually got shut after 72 hours. We wasn't allowed customers in the store for about 3-4 months. So it was a very, very hard period at the beginning, but you've just got to literally get up, get out there, and get going. And I think what people have to remember is that this industry is huge and it's growing so much. And I think we've all got to be helpful to each other, because the industry is more than big enough for everybody. And we need to build up a network worldwide of DSPs, etc., because we can all support each other. I'm sure that some people from America could probably give me a good few lessons on FAA regulations, and the same with the Australians, etc. Wherever you are in the world, we can all contribute to the industry together, and I think it's important to remember that. And also remember, just look after your customers, and your customers will look after you. That's probably the number one advice that I could give to everyone. If you look after your customers, then they'll look after your business for you.
Thank you again, Carl, for your wonderful advice. And I'm sure this session is going to help a lot of drone solution providers, as well as on businesses or enterprises that are part of this discussion and listening in here. It'll help them, take that step or take the decision towards drone autonomy and adopting more autonomous drone solutions. So thank you once again. Before we adjourn, I have one big announcement to make. So let me pull up the screen once again. So in less than 2 months, Flightbase and iDeployer will be exhibiting at the DroneX conference, which is going to take place in Excel, London on September 7th and 8th. So anyone in the audience who wants to visit us can find us at booth number D62, which is near to a cafe. So therefore, certainly you will not miss it. We have a lot of exciting stuff, goodies in store for you. So thank you once again, Carl and Peter, if you're still in the audience, for joining us in and for spending time amongst your busy schedule. We will see you again next Thursday for episode 2 of the Road to Drone Autonomy series, where I host yet another DSP all the way from Spain. Carl, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, just thank you very much to everyone for your time today. If you have any questions at all about drone in a box, hardware, software, anything in general, my email's on the profile. Feel free to drop me a message. But absolute pleasure to meet you all. And best of luck. Any questions, feel free to give me an email.
Yes, so definitely we'll drop in Carl's email as well in the chat section. So if anybody has any questions with regards to how to get started with autonomous drone solutions, or have a demo of get a demo of the iDeployer solution, any regulatory challenges that you might be coming across. So please feel free to drop in an email to Carl, and he will be at your service. So thank you. Have an awesome day, everybody.
Thank
You've
you.
been a thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.